Hi guys, we're back again. Officer Matt Coffey, Officer Ryan West, Dixon Police Podcast episode 4. And this is going to be about our FTO program. This episode will be about the FTO program that we have here. We're fortunate we have one guy currently in FTO right now. I just got done at the FTO class.
Why don't we take a minute and explain what FTO stands for
FTO.
People aren't in the police field.
So it's Field Training Operations.
Officer.
Or Officer, FTO, Field Training Officer Program.
Yeah, so you just finished up with your first trainee.
I did, yep.
Nice.
Phase, we'll talk about phases here in a second. But yeah, I went to a 40-hour class, 5 days a week at 8 hours, which would be 40 hours. Look at that. Oh yeah, it was a good class. Monday through Wednesday was kind of dry. It was a little unfortunate, but Thursday and Friday it came together. We did some more practical stuff, hands-on things, and it made the last 2 days go by pretty quick. So that was nice. A lot of people after Wednesday were like emailing each other, texting each other, asking if anybody had any idea what was going on, and I think 95% of the class did not know.
Because they basically put you through an abbreviated program in that week.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Thursday, Friday was a lot more hands-on and practical, and that helped a lot. And then we had to do a presentation at the end, which helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
Listening to 20 people give the same presentation
about
the program. So that was actually, it was boring, but it was nice to do.
So how'd you find the actual training of someone for the first time?
It's a different ball game.
Yeah.
Us as police officers, we are used to being in control of everything, and when you are not in control of the squad car, really anything, it's difficult initially, but I got used to it. I was fortunate I had a good trainee for my first one. And he had 2 phases and a check ride under his belt. We'll go through that here shortly.
Let's do that now because I'm sure we're going to keep referencing it. So.
Yeah.
So our field training program now, it's broken into 4 phases. And, well, even before that, we've actually introduced an admin phase, which is like a week long. That's just, he's supposed to get all the, some of the geography stuff, like go meet all the people in the schools. Here's all the churches and bars and everything else in town and the different businesses.
Right.
And then get all the equipment issued, everything else like that. So that eats up a lot of time in that first phase.
Which is really nice to have.
It is.
Honestly, because he gets his emails, his passwords, because I don't know how we have so many passwords and stuff here. It's insane. Yeah. So that first week is nice to have. I wish when I went through FTO 6 years ago that I had something similar to that, but I didn't. So that's really nice to have.
It ended up not working out too well this time because he's with the investigations when that happened, and they ended up actually getting pretty busy. So it's still, most of it fell down to first phase and probably bled into the second phase as well, or phase. I guess it's it's not numbered right. So phase B.
Phase B.
But so we spent a large percentage of our time still going through all the schools and everything else because I had them for phase A, so that was interesting. I'd never had a phase A person before. I'm used to getting them like later on in the training, so that was a different look for me too. So obviously the phases are they build upon each other. The first phase you're gonna teach them just some of the real basic stuff, and then by the phase 4 when you're talking long-term investigations and
then phase C was emergency incident response, which is what I had our newest officer, Officer Grady, which is what I had him for. Phase B.
That's non-emergency.
That's non-emergency, and then phase A is your
self-initiated
activity and stuff like that, traffic stops, things like that. So you have phase A, phase B, and then once he's cleared through those, there's a check ride.
After 2 phases.
After 2 phases, which is basically, was it just one shift, right?
No,
it's a week. It's a week.
Week long.
1 week, yeah.
And so that's a gauge of not only like his competency and skills, or his or hers, but in this case Evan's, but also of the field training officers, right? Because if they're not doing their job correctly and he's failing, then
the program's not working.
Correct. That's that reflects on the quality of their training as well. So,
right.
You might be wondering why all this extra training when they come out of the police academy, which is, is it 14, 16 weeks long? 16. Okay, it's a little bit longer than when I went. But so with the state of Illinois, they have said, he is a full-fledged officer, sworn officer, everything else. So, why all this additional training? And really, the academy gets everyone to like a baseline.
Right.
Right. And then from there, your department will come through and say, hey, look, we've got our policies and procedures and how we do things. And this is, get everyone else on the same page, same sheet of music, whatever terminology you want to use for it. But it kind of brings them up to speed of what the other officers are of that particular department.
Right.
So you actually went through a couple FTOs.
I did.
Because you were at 2 different departments.
Yeah, I was in Rock Falls. I was only there I just got off of FTO before I came here. So I was there on the road for 3.5 months. Came here, and I was only an officer for 9 months at the time. So I went through a whole other field training program when I first got here. Ooh, Mike's caught that.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Down the wrong esophagus.
Yeah. But then I went through another field training program when I came here. And I mean, the reason it exists is all departments are different, right? Mm-hmm. So you have your policies, you have your procedures, you have your geography, you have your different administration, you have, all of our squad cars are different from other departments. So it's good to get them up to speed. Like you said, you get them at a baseline, and then they come here. The state of Illinois, says, yeah, you're a full-fledged officer, but they've never, you never handle a domestic, or you haven't handled a traffic stop or anything like that. So it's good to bring them in and then get them trained up on that type of stuff.
Yeah, and you're moving from like a classroom environment where it's all like hypotheticals into real world.
Yeah.
Now this is actually happening, and then you've got someone there, kind of like that safety net, like saying, hey, we're doing our best, not to let you fail.
Right.
And then kind of help them along the way. And it's early on in the training, that's very much the instructor or the trainer is doing a lot of the work.
Most of it,
and they're just kind of observing. And then as they start, going through the different phases, then the responsibility and the onus of everything moves more over to the trainees. So they're handling, 100% of the calls by the time they're graduating, finishing. Completing.
There you go. Completing the field training program. Yeah. So the difference, I guess we can kind of talk about the differences of the first program that we had, what was that called? Sokolov.
Yeah, Coach Sok.
When I came here, that's the one that I went through. But now we have this new one that's, honestly, it's pretty different. It's more so on the trainee, the officer. They're doing most of the paperwork and stuff like that. With the other program, it was the trainer that was doing most of the paperwork, which there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of made the new program
adopted kind of a blended.
And we've made it to kind of blend and
correct
gel with how we do things here at the police department. So I think that's a good thing that we've done. So.
Yeah, I think it's important tailoring it to suit our needs more.
Yeah, for sure.
And just like police academies and say, well, we can get baseline stuff. Well, maybe that's not where we want it. Maybe we want to improve upon the model that suits our needs best.
And again, going back to why it exists, like we're going to police differently here than maybe in Chicago or Rockford or a suburb,
or even like the county, right?
Or even the county. Yeah,
counties like a sheriff's department service papers,
wider.
They do stuff like that. We don't handle some of those things.
So
so the understanding that those kind of roles and responsibilities they're going to be different from one agency to the next. Yeah. So that's actually we talk about people going through multiple FTO programs. So we've had several people come from like lateral hires from different departments. So these guys guys and gals are already police officers somewhere else, right? But still they'll go through like an abbreviated FTO program because a lot of the stuff they've seen before. It's just kind of them understanding. Okay, well, what's our arrest procedures? What's this kind of stuff? So they have the benefit of having sometimes 2, 3, 4 years on as a police officer somewhere. So Like, oh, well, this isn't the first time I've ever seen a traffic stop or a domestic battery or something like that. So,
Well, and it's good too because I know a guy, he's been here for a few years now, where he worked prior to lateraling here. You would, for like a drug arrest, this department would issue an NTA, like just write him a ticket and send him on. I mean, this is before the Safety Act. And I guess it's kind of similar to what we're doing here now. But yeah, they would like literally like, write a ticket and then send the person on their way. And if they have like meth or heroin or whatever. So it's good, like obviously policing differently. So yeah, that's good.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think if we take just a quick moment here, we'll introduce our newest officer. He's almost done with the FTO program here.
He's getting there.
He's got 2 weeks left. Somewhere around there.
Yeah, close.
And he's actually been sitting here just eyeballing us the entire time. So I'm gonna
we muted him.
Unmute his mic. He's a talker. All right, Evan. Welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate you having
All right,
me
yeah,
on.
you gotta get closer to the mic.
I can hear you.
Is that a little bit better?
There you go. Yeah, a little bit closer. Yeah. There
All
you
right,
go.
just kind of finding my range
Yeah,
here.
there you go. Yeah, you're good. That's a lot better. So yeah, Officer Evan Grady, he's in the field training program right now. Like Officer Westside, he's got about 2 weeks left, and then, granted, he doesn't need any remedial training. He will be released to solo patrol.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So I'm sure he's getting ready to get in his car on his own and not have somebody in the passenger seat every shift he's working. But he's doing well.
Yeah.
So I guess to start off, Evan, where did you work prior to coming here to the Dixon Police Department?
So directly before I came to the Dixon Police Department, I worked for Lee County Probation. So I was there for about 2 years, and I was the probation officer for the drug court and veterans treatment court programs. And before that, I worked at KSB Hospital. I was a mental health crisis preventionist, was my official title. And I worked primarily on the behavioral health unit, the inpatient unit on 2 East, and had a lot of exposure to different types of mental health crises. And then I think it really kind of helped me going forward into probation, because again, with drug use, substance abuse, and things of that nature, mental health is usually a comorbid occurrence when it comes to those types of things. So then when it led me to here, I think that there was a lot of overlap and a lot of things that built upon one another that led me here that, I'm very excited to be here. And I think that my previous background has served me well thus far, especially with some of the individuals that we deal with.
Yeah. So it's been kind of interesting. Your training here has felt
Field.
yes. Has felt kind of flip flopped. Like when we train newer people, generally, like some of the hardest part is how do you talk to people who have like some kind of mental illness going on, or someone's like in a crisis of some kind. And it's been opposite. Like we've been like learning from you.
Kind of let Evan just take the reins.
Yeah, just let him do his thing.
Go for it. Yeah.
He's already T for trained on this one. So it's recently we got our new crisis intervention worker, and she's been passing out information stuff like, hey, here's some tips and tricks on like how do you talk to someone that's going through a crisis? How do you maybe use these words or try to use like this kind of dialogue that would help, I don't know, lessen the situation, like or calm people down. And it's funny because she sent that out, and I'm reading through this. I'm like, oh, that's some good stuff, whatever. And it was like the next day, we had a call, and someone was just super worked up. And I remember just standing back and watching, and you were doing exactly everything that she had already described, but it was all based on your previous stuff that you'd done working up in the mental health unit, and it was just like it looked natural. So interesting, because then like the things that we have a hard time with is like, okay, now we got to like work on just traffic stops and geography, all like the base stuff, like the
basic,
phase A stuff, and it's like, well, the phase D stuff is actually coming in really easy.
Yeah.
It's definitely been an interesting experience thus far. Again, I think that it feels a little bit like a cheat code when I've dealt with I've seen some familiar faces in this line of work.
Right.
And again, having that previous experience and that level of comfortability, and, I think I've treated everybody fairly, and I think I've, especially in previous work, I know my career is still very young here as a Dixon police officer, but I like to think that I've laid a pretty decent foundation with a lot of the people that I've come into contact with already through previous experience at probation and then obviously at the unit as well.
Yeah, I would say one thing that's been really good to see is like a lot of guys will get really frustrated talking to people who, especially some like mental subjects who are like a broken record. They just like on repeat over and over and over again. And you come in obviously having that experience, you get like some super patience.
Well,
Super patient.
and again, as much as I attribute the success I'm currently having in my FTO right now to the people who have been training me and the people who have assisted me, because in all honesty, that is why I'm being successful, is because I have very good teachers and very good examples to look towards.
You've already passed our phases.
I'm just saying. I swear, it's you've got a lot of great people that work at this department. You have a lot of experience that you can draw upon. And I think that my success was attributed to a lot of that from previous work experience too. I had a lot of good nurses that I worked with. I had former police officers even that I worked with on the unit, and they were a source of invaluable information for me. And it was more or less like, how do I emulate them? How do I take the best of what they're doing and try to incorporate it into what I do?
Yeah. One of the things we didn't touch on, we kind of alluded to it, but each phase for us, we have a different field training officer. So you don't get one guy that trains up, for the entirety of the field training program. So it allows you as a trainee to go through and get a different look at how people maybe approach the same problem. We might have 4 different solutions for the same problem, which is good because you get to pick up on like the good and quite possibly bad habits of certain people. Like, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes by no means are Matt and I perfect in any regard. So it might be like, well, Matt handled that a lot better than Ryan did on that one, so I'm going to do what Matt did there and not what Ryan did.
Well, and I would even say, for me as a new officer and just kind of learning the ropes of everything, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but it is kind of nice to see fellow officers struggle just a little bit too, because it reminds me as a new officer that, hey, we're all human. And even, some people that I would look at as, this is my training officer, I want to do everything that they're doing because I feel like they're just on a completely different level of competence than where I'm at right now. And then when I see maybe a roadblock or an obstacle that you guys have to overcome, or it kind of gives you a little bit of trouble, it makes me feel a little bit better because I know that I've got so much to learn. I've got so much room to grow. But then I've seen, other officers deal with experiences where they feel like they have to grow a little bit, or they have to draw upon maybe a new skill or develop a new sort of solution to a problem that they haven't faced before.
Yeah, I always found that like the teacher learns more than the students kind of thing. But it doesn't matter. Every time I get someone that I'm training, they'll ask me some questions. I'm like, I don't know.
Good question.
I'm like, oh my God, I'll go find out answers for you. No one's ever asked me that before. So,
Yeah.
But it's good. It forces us to grow, and it helps us to stay on top of our game too, to be a good example.
Absolutely.
So how's the job been so far?
For me, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints. Again, I really enjoy working here. Again, a lot of what you guys have spoken about, and I know you talked about culture, and I think that is something that is very apparent in this department from top to bottom and shift to shift. Because I know I've been on every shift except one. I haven't been on Sergeant Reagan's shift yet, and I don't know if I'll be able to have that opportunity. But I can't imagine it's drastically different from the shifts that I have been on. And again, it's very fun for me personally to know that you're coming to work with a group of people that are very good at their job, one, but also have fun, have a way of, and then also have a way of welcoming, the new guy, because again, I know that I have had my struggles. I've definitely had my mistakes, and it's easy for myself to beat myself up because I strive for a high standard, because I look around and I see nothing but high standards that people hold for themselves. So again, I try as much as I can to balance out the fact that, I know I'm new. I know that I'm not supposed to get everything perfect right off the bat, but it's something that I really care about, and it's something I really want to strive forward to. And it's a pleasure knowing that you're surrounded by examples that are amazing and excellent, and that you have people that are willing to help you. Because I know on this shift alone, with Matt being a newly minted FTO, you have Sergeant Sharp, who's an FTO.
Yeah, he was Matt and he was your FTO, wasn't he? Did he?
Lincoln?
Yes. He must have just moved upstairs then.
Yeah, shortly, when I came here, he went right up, not right up, but shortly after, he was upstairs. I had Brad Dempsey for the majority of it, and then Jake Montine, and I had Charlie Thomas for a few weeks. Yeah. Charlie was fun.
He's quite the personality.
He is a personality, yeah.
But just being surrounded by FTOs, being surrounded by people who have been here a while, and again, just having those examples that you can draw upon. And, again, I remember the other day we were talking about a struggle that I was having, but then everybody kind of chimed in and said, hey, when I was in your shoes, or when I was dealing with something similar, I ran into similar issues. And for me, that's huge to hear, because again, I'm here seeing you guys in your current state and your current level of expertise, and I definitely don't see those mistakes. It's hard for me to imagine, you guys being in those positions where you're making those mistakes.
I had the pleasure of being with you when you made your first traffic stop.
Oh yeah.
And for those who've never done it, it's there's so many things going on all at once.
Yeah.
Now it's like autopilot, just do your thing. But afterwards, you were really beating yourself up over it, because it was highly entertaining from my side of the car. It was a super low stress. This person was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, my registration expired," or something, and his face is red, he's flushed, he's sweating real bad, his radio is just all over the place.
Because he knows what everyone's going to say back to the department when he goes back.
Day shift, everyone can hear him on the radio, and we get back, and they instead of giving him a hard time, they all pitched in and said, "Well, I remember my first stop, and it was just horrible,
butchered, similar."
Yeah. We were all in the same spot. Yeah. I had a little Asian lady. She was like 4'9". I had pulled over, and she did not have a good command of the English language.
Oh boy!
And she was screaming at me, "Why you pull me over?" And just screaming, and I was like, "I don't know." I'm sorry, you're speeding or something. I just remember looking back at my FTO, and he's just laughing at me. He's like, "Just give her a warning."
Was it Lincoln?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I'll have to ask him if he remembers that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, stories of that, Sergeant Bivens was talking about how he forgot to give the guy his driver's license back, and he just drove off with it. And all sorts of stories. We've all been in your shoes.
Oh man, that's happened to me like 4 years on. Sometimes you'll just happen to forget a driver's license. The thing you never want to do is drop it between the center console and your seat. Yeah, good luck finding that thing.
Yeah. I've had a couple close calls with
you
that.
did with me just the other night. You had a close call. You're like, "Oh man, that would have been bad." I'm like, "Yeah, you'd have been out of commission for a little while."
Take my baton to my forearm and break it in like 4 places, so I can snake it down in between there.
Because there's so much equipment in there.
It's terrible.
Oh man, yeah. What we got here for you, Evan? Well, let's go to what's your favorite part of the job so far? We've kind of alluded to it a little bit, I think, but I guess if you just want to expand on that, your favorite part, and it'll get better probably once you get on your own. But so far, what's the best thing?
I love being in the car, personally, you know, and getting out and about and kind of having that liberty to, I know it's more of a phase A thing, but obviously it carries over into all the other phases. And then obviously when you've graduated, self-initiated activity is going to be something that's, huge. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like the feeling of the ability to be able to, if you see the violation, you can stop it. Or even if you want to get out and talk to somebody, if you want to get out and talk to somebody, you can try and talk to them and see what happens. But that kind of autonomy and that kind of, build your own adventure sort of style that is built into the job is something I really appreciate and enjoy. And then, I enjoy talking to people, and as much as some of those calls, might seem annoying, and I appreciate the fact that you guys say that I have a lot of patience, but for me, it's just been, I've done that for a long time. I've had people yell and scream at me on the phone or in person, or go around in circles about, asking me for something that I can't necessarily provide them. But I really do enjoy like trying to help people solve their problems. And, it might not be exactly what they want. It might not be, the perfect solution by any means, but it's about how can we make today better? How can we make this interaction that you're having with me or the department or whoever, how can we make it a little bit better today? And can we make it to tomorrow? And can we start a little bit of momentum to maybe, just maybe, kind of give you a better outlook on your day, the situation, and ultimately the department too, because I know that it's not often that when you're seeing us that it might not necessarily be the best day of your life. Or I'm sure
Which
that
usually the worst.
exactly.
Or it's usually a tough day. Yeah.
And again, I can totally understand when we show up, if you're not happy to see us, I totally understand that. So usually that's my kind of mindset usually when I'm getting kind of the attitude or when I'm getting yelled at or something like that. It's like, all right,
I was going to say there's some people that we're not happy to see either.
right. And that's fine.
That's
The
for
feelings can absolutely be mutual, but, keeping the level head and again, focusing on the goal. And the goal is how do we make this better right now? And can we move forward in a positive direction in any way, shape, or form?
How confident would you have been had you graduated the academy and then we just said, here's your car, go ahead?
Oh, no way. I mean, I'm sure that there are people that can do it. I'm sure that you could drop a random student fresh out of the academy onto the road and they'd be just fine, and more power to them, But me personally, if like you guys have talked about it before, I mean, there's the classroom setting and there's learning theory, there's learning, the Illinois compiled statute, the IVC, going through standardized field sobriety tests. That's all well and good when you're in a controlled setting, but when you're trying to actually do it out in the field, or when you're trying to deal with somebody who you like, because you do a scenario at the academy where you have your fellow academy students, there'd be acting belligerent, but at the end of it's hard to take it seriously because it's like I'm gonna hang out with you later,
Right, so when they're not actually going to hit you.
Exactly, you're not worried
They're
that
actually not drunk.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
Whatever it may be.
And we actually got lucky because we did a wet lab.
You did do a wet
And
lab,
that was the first one that we did at Sauk Valley Police Academy. So that was nice. But even then, I mean, it's a highly controlled environment and everybody there is cooperative and everybody there is to help you learn.
They're not worried about getting arrested.
Right. And, you're not pulling people over. They'll be like, no, you know what? You're an FTO. Let me help you learn real quick. I know this is probably a learning opportunity for you.
Seem
So
like
I'll
you
just,
need a DUI.
exactly.
Here you go.
Let me be real patient with you on this and let you mess up, or it's like, no, I couldn't do it. And again, like you were saying, the first traffic stop that I did, I'm like, where am I? What am I saying? And then like even the color of the vehicle, I remember that was like
Just screamed out
it
there.
was like
It's
it's blue.
Oh, that's funny. Well, the funny thing is, like, you'll never forget that. You'll remember your first traffic stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, down the road when maybe you're an FTO and you're teaching someone, you'll be the one in the passenger seat,
Laughing and-
giggling as they're struggling away. And you're like, yeah, you'll get it.
Yeah,
Just need
that's
some more
funny.
reps. Yeah. Well, actually, one of the other officers we just trained, like right before you, he came from a department where it was very much like you're a cop now, figure it out. And I just can't fathom like the complexity of this job. I mean, it's hard enough. Like we get good training here. I have really good FTOs, and like there's so much stuff with the law that like you can get yourself in trouble in a hurry. And I'm shocked. The department he came from just doesn't have all sorts of lawsuits. Honestly,
Yeah, and that goes back to our culture. I mean, and why we train the way we do and do the things that we do here. You don't want to get caught up in whether it's a civil case or criminal case or something like that. So that's why you train. I mean, we still train. You got 20 plus years on the job, you're still training, whether it be crisis intervention or your handguns, whatever it may be. That's why you have to train consistently, and that's a great thing about Dixon. We train a lot, so.
Yeah. So what do you find has been the most difficult adjustment or I guess lesson during field training?
Well, I would say initially, it is kind of getting into that mindset that you're the police. And again, I know that I think there's been a few opportunities for growth there. I know Matt and I had a few instances where he just keeps saying, he's like, "You're the police."
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. And it is something where, and that happened in Phase A with you. I remember like, trying to turn my car around or whipping a UE or something like that, which did not go well initially at all. I've gotten better, a little bit better.
Yeah, you've improved.
But kind of remembering that you have the authority, because again, it's a great responsibility and it's a great duty that you're getting ready to engage in. And it can be kind of scary to know, because it's a power that's being placed in your hands to make an arrest, to even pull somebody over and issue them a warning. It's something that you can't take lightly, and it's something that is hard to kind of wrap your brain around, because and me personally, I've been doing, I've gone my whole life and I've never been given this power. I've never been given this authority, and getting comfortable, utilizing and wielding that authority is something that was a huge adjustment for me going, like when I first started. And even now a little bit, it's like, you're still not used to that idea of, I have the power. It's been given to me. It's been bestowed upon me to make sure that you're maintaining law and order and, doing your job.
Much prefer someone that's apprehensive to, being, having that power bestowed on them, as you said, than someone who's like, yes, I finally got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to show those guys.
Yeah, let's not do that, Evan.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Fortunately, I think our interview process and
Yeah.
everything else, I think, weeds out.
It weeds out those,
so.
yes, because there are, you have those officers' places, Thankfully, we don't have any of those here, but you do have some of those bad eggs every now and then.
Yeah, I remember one of the conversations I had with you really early on. I was talking. I was like, there's going to be some people who they only respond to being talked to in a somewhat violent manner, because that's just the only way they communicate. And sometimes you meet them where they're at and kind of on their level, and they're like, okay, no, I got you. I respect that now. Those would just be screaming at you, and sometimes you scream back a little bit, and they're like, all right, cool, we're good. And that's one thing that I kind of laugh. I see like body cam videos, and people are like, oh, that officer, he's just being too stressed out. I'm like, no, he's meeting that person where they're at. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are stressed out. Don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying that, but sometimes that's the only way some people respond. And I think that was probably one of my biggest adjustments. Is I'm not a shouter or a screamer, that kind of thing. So, kind of amping up to meet him at that level, that took me a long time.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I mean, if we could approach every situation and have a civil conversation about how do we solve the issue, or, talk in a normal conversational tone, then absolutely. I mean, we would all dream of that.
We wouldn't have jobs.
Right, exactly.
We wouldn't have to.
And I can't imagine that we would be like, what we really want to do is hopefully we get there and everybody's yelling and screaming.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah. Hopefully it takes us a really long time to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes we never figure out what's going on when people are screaming and yelling like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is the weird calls. You show up, everyone's screaming, yelling, and they all just kind of disperse. Everyone goes, what just happened? Everyone's like, I don't know, but it's over.
Yeah. See you later. All right. No one wants to talk. There's not much we can do.
All right, Evan. Well, I think that about wraps it up. You got any thing in closing you'd like to add?
No, really. I just appreciate you guys having me on. And again, I appreciate everything that the department as a whole and my FTOs individually have given me. But again, I think that from top to bottom, this has been a very, very good experience. I've learned a lot from the first day on. I feel like I've overcome a lot of nerves. And again, I'm excited to work for the department. I'm excited to kind of find out where I land shift-wise, and then, kind of integrate myself into that shift and be a part of the culture.
Looking forward to being on your own in your car?
I think it'll be interesting to be on my own.
You can say it. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can say it.
Well,
You're ready.
I don't know I wouldn't say I'm ready. I'll wait for the check ride at the end. But I do feel much more prepared than day one. And, if you were to say now, we're going to let you go be in your car, be alone in the car, tomorrow or whatever, I feel much more confident in my ability to, do the job now as compared to day one. But I'm more than willing to do whatever it takes to, complete the program. If that means I got to stay a couple extra shifts or whatever it may be, whatever's asked of me, I'm willing to do.
Yeah, it's always funny talking to the field training officers, and you can tell that it gets close to like the end of the phase, and then they're like, you can just see they're like pacing back and forth, like, you ready to have your own car back? Like, yes, yes.
Especially with me.
See,
You
that's
being
who
my
I
first
feel
one.
bad for. That's who I
Yeah.
feel bad
I
for
mean,
is because
it's-
I know that, like Matt was saying, when you said earlier, when you're like, you're so used to being in control, and I know that I'm totally like my own officer and I'm still figuring things out, and it's can be herky jerky at times. Like I can feel the person in the passenger seat going like
Just glaring at you.
just kind of gritting their teeth a
staring
little
at
bit, and
you.
they're like,
Yeah.
okay, remember he's learning. Learning.
Oh yeah, no, and I only 3 weeks I had you.
Sure.
It's still just that it's that control that
Yeah, the
us as
relinquishing of that
officers
control.
just but you have to do that. I'm same with Lincoln or same with Ryan. Like one day, like we're training you to ultimately take like our position as an FTO or Ryan's position as a DOIC or Lincoln's position as a patrol sergeant. So that's why you have to whether you like it or not, you have to do it. So, but it's a good thing to do. So
The 6 people who listen to this podcast are probably just going, what is a DOIC?
6, come on, you got more than that. A DOIC, yeah.
So
I guess,
for those who don't know, DOIC's the designated officer
designated
in charge.
officer in charge. Yeah.
He's like when the sergeant's gone, he helps out.
What do we call? We call Ryan our step sergeant. Once again, like we tell you, Evan, you got to have fun.
Oh yeah.
That's part of having fun.
And I just again want to thank you guys especially because I know that again, that letting go of that control and allowing me to learn has been very helpful for me, for myself, and for my own personal development. So thank you both personally.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely, no problem.
Looking forward to you getting on your own.
Thank you.
Here soon.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Alrighty, yeah, appreciate it.
No, it's good.
I feel like you almost talk better than me.
He's a talker.
He is. He is a talker. As he just shakes his head and walks out, shuts the door behind him. We're moving on to our obscure law.
Obscure laws.
Obscure laws.
All right.
How about we'll have you start this one. We had a call similar to this the other night. We'll let you go. We'll let you go ahead.
Well,
yeah.
Last night somebody.
Last night. Yeah.
Last night somebody drove, or yesterday. I didn't find the vehicle. I found the vehicle last night. Somebody parked their vehicle like I don't know, it's like 200 meters down from like the nearest railroad crossing. They got their vehicle stuck, like
Stuck.
like really stuck. And it's like the tow truck driver like 4 hours to get the vehicle off of the
Oh my gosh.
railroad property.
So I'm kind of spitballing here, but when you're at Depot, you're on Depot and you're at the tracks, was it to the east?
No,
It was to the west.
Yeah, like
And I shined my spotlight down there and everything, and
it was
did not.
way down there.
Okay, so that's why I didn't
Yeah,
see it.
It's way down there.
And maybe I wasn't looking. Clearly, I wasn't looking hard enough.
But
But
when the call initially came out, I think one of the people from the trains.
the Union Pacific,
Thank
yeah.
you. I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, they called in. They're like, "There's a truck like 10 feet off the tracks." We're like, "Okay." So you drove by. You're like, "Well, I don't see anything right where they said." Mm-hmm. Well, 10 foot was being gracious.
Mighty generous.
Yeah, it was maybe 5 feet. I can't believe the train didn't hit it.
Yeah. From the picture you sent me, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, so it got me doing some digging because Lincoln actually brought this up because there's actually a specific charge for trespassing on railroad property. It's like, really? So I had to look it up. It is. So like trespassing is generally, what's like a class B now? Class B misdemeanor.
Probably, yeah.
With the new Safety Act, like we can't even make somebody leave. It's. I'll keep my opinions to myself. I think everyone knows what they are now.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, man.
I mean, if it gets to be a real problem, we can like bring them back to the police station and drop 'em off. But train property, that's actually a much higher charge. It actually gets up into like felony territory.
Does it?
I mean, it's got to be pretty extreme, obviously.
Right.
But like the people like to take pictures, like people walking down tracks. There's always like
Like the.
the tracks go off in
Yeah.
the distance, whatever and that is like a class A misdemeanor.
No way.
And if you keep doing it or do it like when there's trains on there, it's like a class 4 felony.
Really?
I'm guessing it has to come down to like a safety thing.
I would assume so.
Trains obviously can't stop on a dime.
Yeah.
Nor start on a dime.
Yeah.
So once that thing's in motion, like getting it stopped is going to be a big task.
Yeah.
So yeah, riding on trains, obviously that's illegal. Let me rephrase that. Not paying for riding on a train.
Right.
The people that ride like on top of the trains.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
Let's not do that. Yeah.
There used to be a term for that, but I can't even think what it is right now.
Let's not.
It's 3:30 in the morning.
It is 3:30 in the morning.
That just doesn't help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually looked that up. And I was like, well, this is interesting. So
Nice. Yeah, that's
conceivably,
a different one.
We could have charged this guy, but it ended up being it's a private property tow. So I mean, it is the Union Pacific. They said, yeah, get that thing towed out of there, and then
Right.
now that guy's gonna
Well,
square
especially with a 4-hour tow, I'm sure that the
yeah.
tow company's gonna make sure that he pays for that one.
Yeah, it's
so,
gonna be a pricey one.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my obscure law, and again, some of these I can't believe, like, whether or not they're actually true. But this one that I found in Chicago, you cannot wear your pajamas while you're fishing.
There's no way people abide by that.
And do you think Chicago PD is enforcing that? No.
I don't know that Chicago PD forces a lot of smaller.
Like, come on, like, we'll call them, this will take, like, call them for, like, if we have a gas drive-off, which to businesses here in Dixon, pretty, not huge, but, like,
Adds
they,
up,
they want
sure.
their money, you
Right.
know? Someone pays $80 worth of gas, they want their money. Well,
Yeah.
if we get a plate and it comes back to somebody in Chicago, and we call it Chicago PD,
They're like, what happened?
they're like,
yeah, no. Sorry, we just had
have a good
burgers.
night. Click.
Yeah.
So it's like, why can't someone wear their pajamas when they're fishing?
That's got to be an old one.
It has to be.
Was there a date on it or no?
There was not a date, no. But yeah, you can't wear your pajamas while you're fishing in Chicago.
Interesting. So we had a guy called, this is probably about a month ago, 2 months ago. Well, we're on day shift. And anyway, the guy had some fraudulent charges on his credit card, identity stolen, that kind of stuff. Well, the billing address came back here to Dixon, but the shipping address was in Chicago. So
Okay.
he's like, hey, can you just go check out this house? I was like, yeah, that's no problem. This guy was from like the state of Oregon.
Okay.
I was like, that's not a problem. I can do that. As I checked it out. We had previous contacts with this lady. She's like 112. I was like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't her. So I go, she answers the door. I'm like, did you steal someone's credit card? She's like, what? I'm like, okay, we're good. So I went back and I called him. I was like, what? I said, wherever this shipping address is, that's more than likely probably where, whatever the stuff
person,
happened.
yeah.
Well, it was like the heart of Chicago. I mean, it was like way in there. So I was like, well, I mean,
Good luck.
you're going to have to call Chicago PD, just, I don't know, what they're going to be able to do to help you, but, just try. It's way out of my jurisdiction.
Right.
But I'll check everything here on my end, see what I can do for you. So I ended up calling this guy back. It was like a couple hours later. I was like, hey, just want to let you know, I went and talked to this lady. It's definitely not her. And I said, do you have any luck with the other thing? And he goes, I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you checking on that. You are a very different human being than whoever I talked to in Chicago. I was like, well, to be fair, they probably had some pretty serious crimes they were doing.
Yeah, and we're not trying to sit here and bash Chicago PD, obviously.
Overwhelmed.
But there's sometimes, is it Lincoln that has their radio on his phone or something like that, and he can hear their radio traffic?
Oh my,
Some of the guys, sometimes they'll come on and they're down like 35 calls.
that's insane.
And some are like serious disturbances or domestics or shots fired. So yeah, we're not trying to bash Chicago PD.
They've got their hands full.
They do have their hands full.
With
Yeah.
actual crime. All right, so we'll switch on to recent memorable calls. I mean, obviously, we just kind of covered one of the train tracks thing.
Yeah.
I'll let you get into one, Matt, because you just had one
I
tonight.
just had one tonight. And this is a first for me. The call came out as a stolen dog down on the south side of town. It was actually this woman's husband that called it in. There was some damage to their, it's not a chain link fence, but a fence they had in their backyard. It wasn't a privacy fence, but there was some damage to the fence, and they said it appeared that somebody had reached over the fence. Yeah, I don't know what that clicking was.
Probably not important.
Probably not. Yeah. I guess we'll find it's probably that microwave.
Explodes.
It's gonna explode. Anyways, sorry. It's like a squirrel, you know. But anyways, they said somebody had reached over their fence, and it appeared that, you know, someone had stolen their dog. Well, they have 3 dogs, but they could only find 2 inside the house.
How big are these dogs?
Miniature poodles.
Oh, so they're tiny.
So somebody very well could have, and long story short, I go down there and I look at this fence, and it really honestly looked like if somebody had both of their arms and reached over the fence.
Yeah.
It literally looks like their arm like imprints around this fence. So I'm like, oh, it's very possible that this dog, you know, and the dogs were out for like an hour. So it was very possible that the dog could have possibly gotten stolen. So I go there, and this woman is very distraught. And, you know, it's her dogs, whatever.
Sure.
So I start talking. I'm like, "You're sure that this dog is not inside?" Because I've had calls before with like,
It's usually kids missing.
it's usually kids missing, but they're inside under their bed or in the closet hiding or whatever it may be. So that's why I'm like, the dog's got to be inside. So I go and I talk to 2 different neighbors that unfortunately didn't have cameras. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to do everything for this woman, you know, because she's distraught and everything else. And we're sitting there. I take a picture of the dog, and then I take pictures of the fence so I can do a report and send a picture out to the department and say, hey, the dog's name is, I can give the dog's name. Mitzi was the dog's name. Miniature poodle, no tags. So it's just like, you know, a random dog, whatever it may be.
Right.
And it's obviously hard to, you know, if somebody did steal a dog, it'd probably, without catching them, like in possession of the dog, it'd probably be pretty difficult to charge them. So anyways, I get everything I need. I get her information, and I'm like, all right, ma'am, you know, if you need anything, I'm Officer Coffee. If anything changes, just let me know. And we're standing there in her driveway, and she looks at her front door, and the front door, it's a screen door, but it's like fogging up because it was kind of cold. And so she's like, she looked, and somehow she could see, and she's like, who is that? And she's like screaming, and I'm like, I'm kind of scared. I'm thinking it's a person that she's like talking about.
You're drawing your gun out.
Well, sure enough, I look at the front door, and the dog is panting, and it's Mitzi. Mitzi's inside the house, has been inside the house the entire time. So, and then, gosh, what did they say? They're like, do you have any promotions coming up? And I'm like, we may have some sergeants or detective spots or whatever. They're like, you know what? I'm going to call, they're just being funny, older people, you know, I'm going to call your officer in charge or whatever. And I'm going to say, you need to be a detective, because that's some good work there. And I'm like, well, you know, go ahead. But obviously I didn't do anything. So, it was just funny to look and just see the dog just panning there and inside the house the entire time. And the woman came out, and she gave me a big hug, like I had done something, but obviously I didn't. So that was a funny one. That's probably one of the more memorable calls that I've had within the past, couple months.
3 hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So no, that was a good one. That was funny. So stolen dog turned into dog is fine and inside. Yeah.
So you mentioned it, but this call comes out with kids, not often, but probably like once or twice a year. And a frantic parent calls in. I can't find my kid. The kid's wandering around the streets. I know it. And it's like all hands on deck. You know, we come screaming down to the house. We've learned. It's like, have you checked the house? Like, yes. Well, of course we did. Like, are you sure?
Have you checked the house?
Yes. And people are like, we have checked high and low. And usually we follow it up with, would you allow us to check your house? And thankfully, so far, 100% of the time,
it's like,
we have found the kid sleeping in the house.
Like 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, one like the kid had his bed was like a foot away from the wall, and he had like rolled in between the bed and the wall. He was like wrapped up in a blanket, and the kid was just zonked out. And
but it's
the parents are like, oh my gosh, he's been there the entire time. They're like mad at the kid, like, what? Why would you do that to me? And the kid's like, what are you talking about? I just rolled off the bed.
Well, then it's like and then after, like tonight, this woman, she was like super apologetic about, I'm so sorry for wasting your time. Like,
that's fine.
That's like the most fun thing that I've dealt with tonight is, you know, and plus, you know, it ended up being a good interaction with her and everything. So, and usually that's obviously how it is with parents with kids sleeping inside. You know, you have that good interaction. But yeah, people think that they're wasting our time when they call us for things like that. Like, that's one of the many reasons that we're here, so.
Yeah. We had this discussion a while back too about like, what's your favorite kind of call to go to? And cause I asked you, I was like, what do you think about like people who lock their keys in their car and lock them? Everyone's like, oh, I hate those. And I'm like, really? Those are like my favorite.
Those are the best calls.
They're like, why? I'm like, because everyone's always happy to see you. Like, there's not one person that would be like screaming at me.
Right.
They're like, oh, hey, thanks. I appreciate you guys doing
Yeah.
that. And I just kind of like that little pick me up during the day.
It's good. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 times a day someone locks their keys in their car.
And it never fails. It's like in the dead of winter when it's
those are less
negative
fun.
10 degrees outside.
Can't feel my hands.
My fingers hurt. But yeah, oh no, that's funny.
So mine for today, it's not a call, but
Okay.
it was when I lived in town, and then this other officer lived in town. He'd come off shift. He'd come pick me up at my house.
Oh, that sounds like something he would do. I'm looking at your notes
My
right
notes,
now.
yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So Detective Dietz, I'm gonna call him out.
Oh, Eddie.
We used to pick each other up basically for work, and he picks me up, and he's driving back to the station. He's like, "You want some McDonald's?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "I'm gonna grab something." I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. So I'm sitting in the passenger seat. I'm on my phone or something. And he's driving through, and he places this order for, I don't know, it's like, it was a big order too. And he gets out the window, and he's like, "Oh, you don't want anything, right?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, I need your wallet." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I don't have my wallet."
He doesn't have his
So I
wallet.
had to pay for his breakfast or whatever it was. He's like, "All right, thanks. I'll get you back." But I was just the hilarity of it because I'm just in my own world, kind of clumped
Right.
out. I'm like, "Oh, I need some coffee. It's early."
Yeah.
And just like, "Oh man, I'm so hungry. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get that." And then ends up being, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to pay for this."
That's
So,
awesome. So now the question is, has he repaid you
I'm
for
sure
that?
he has.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
He's good for that. This was
if he hasn't,
years
he'd
ago.
be hanging that McDonald's breakfast over his head for quite some time.
He might not even remember it.
Eddie.
But
Yeah,
I was-
that's funny.
I was laughing for a while on that one. I was coming across some old little journal notes I had, and that one was in there.
Oh man, yeah. Eddie used to be it's crazy to think, my travel baseball coach growing up. I don't know if you knew that,
No,
but
I
yeah,
didn't.
yeah, Eddie was my coach for, oh gosh, probably like 3 years, maybe 3-4 years. We got second in a World Series together in St. Louis when I was, gosh, I would have been 13, 14 at the time. So
like 3 or 4 years ago.
oh, I knew that was coming. I set myself up for that one, guys. Sorry. No, like almost 15 years ago. But yeah, no, Eddie was my good baseball coach, by the way.
Nice,
So
nice.
yeah. Oh, Eddie.
Well, I think that
Yeah, I think
is
that
it for tonight.
wraps it up.
We actually did this all in one run.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it was
this-
nice to have Evan here, and we just got everything down, and it was
Yeah.
I think it was a good topic to go over as well. And
It's our most viewed YouTube video. We did one on field training.
Oh, the
This
field
is
training one, right?
With Joe Head.
Okay.
And that's our most viewed one.
Most viewed one.
And I think it's probably people who are like getting ready to go to the police academy.
Right.
They probably watch that kind of stuff. Like what can I expect kind of thing.
we were like, yeah.
It's probably a big letdown every time they watch it, but whatever. It's got our most
Oh,
views.
hey, it's
so-
got the most views. So
yeah.
yeah, again, I would say little spiel, like, comment, subscribe to whatever it may be. And if
Sure.
you guys, we get comments every now and then, but yeah, if you've got any ideas for topics for us, let us know. And hopefully we can continue this. And I've had fun doing it so far. So
Yeah.
4 episodes in now with this one. So
Hopefully we're just getting going.
yeah, appreciate it, guys.
All right. We'll see you next time.